a lot of small business owners look at marketing and they just look at ROI. Like they're just like, we need to be getting our ROI. So we only bring on a marketer if it's profitable, if they're generating revenue. So what are some of the best ways like for marketing teams to try and achieve growth? And I know that's a really general question because it would vary by industry. It could be all these different ways. But from your experience, like if you've got a small business and they're trying to grow, what are core like areas of marketing to be focusing on?
It's going to be very different for every company and every industry. I think I actually agree with the overall, approach of looking for ROI, because at the end of the day, a company is supposed to make, profit. They're supposed to generate revenue. So there's no point in doing a lot of things they don't drive you that, in that direction. But that's not to say that branding doesn't drive you that direction. There's just a different way to measure it. So if this is more of a smaller company, I think it really depends on their audience. For some companies, maybe in the B2B world, they can actually use LinkedIn to attract more customers. If you're in the consumer, industry, if you're in B2C, then maybe Instagram is going to be better. I think everyone should have some sort of long-term plan that has to do with content and SEO, but it's something that takes a lot of time to build, and you have to be very patient about it. For some businesses, it's going to be more relevant to work through partnerships. If, for example, you have a software that is integrated with Salesforce, which is the top CRM, then maybe you should just work with Salesforce to try and kind of sell your product. There are so many different ways. I think the idea is to understand that there's no one size fits all. You really need to understand who your customers are, where they're at, and what's the best way to approach them. Some people prefer email, some people want to read content, some people may want to listen to a podcast. You just need to do the research to really talk to your customers and understand what works for them, and then kind of reverse engineer that and build something, for them.
People say obviously about really identifying your audience and the user personas. So I've always admittedly frozen at the thought of that. And almost like now I realize it's important, I'll actually do it. But the reason I used to get frozen was, I think we all kind of think, but our audience, like everyone wants this product, or,
No. This is the biggest mistake you can make. Every time a founder, when I ask them, who's your audience? And they say everyone, I'm like, no, there's no way in hell. Maybe in 20 years, everyone will be your audience. But the best thing to do, especially when you get started, is to narrow down, to be more focused. The more focused you are, the quicker you're going to get to your raving fans, the people that really like you. And from there, you can start growing. But if you don't have that product market fit, if you don't get that first 100,000 people that really get you and use your product and pay you, then there's no point in addressing a bigger market, because you're not going to win.
But how specific do you go? So is it this person, Sally, who's 45 years old, enjoys this, at the weekend? Like, how focused do you need to be about your personas to find lookalike audiences?
Demographics is definitely a good place to start, especially if you work for a B2C company where you target end consumers. But there's so much more that you can do today. There's actually an entire methodology called jobs to be done, where you don't look at people based on who they are, but rather what they're trying to do or to achieve. What is the problem they're facing? And I think, especially in the B2B world, it's a much better way to actually segment your customers, because a lot of different people can have the same problem, but they'll be, from different genders, and they'll have different professions, and it will be hard to just kind of group them by that. So I think being able to go beyond the demographics and actually think about intent and pain points and problems they're trying to solve is a great way to do that. And it is so much easier than people think. When I joined Kolu, I had to get this information. So initially, I just sent a survey out. We had like 5,000 customers at the time. I just sent out a survey and literally asked people like, how old are you? Where do you live? What do you do? Got some of that initial information, But then I jumped on calls with 30 of them because it wasn't enough to know how old they were. And, we had a 50-50 split between men and women. So who should I target? And I had people from all over the world. So it wasn't about geographic area. And I had people from all sorts of professions and jobs. So I couldn't even target them based on that. But when I had a conversation, I asked them, why, did you choose, to download our app? Why are you using the product? What is the benefit you get out of it? And I listened to the words they were using. I didn't tell them, hey, we're a company that does da-da-da-da-da. Would you agree? I let them speak their mind. And that information gives you everything, because people will always tell you who they are and why they're doing what they're doing. You just need to listen. And based on those insights, we were able to craft a completely new narrative that really resonated with people, because I was basically repeating their own words to them just because I took the time to speak to my customers. So, and it's super, like, seriously, sometimes it's just about picking, the phone or doing a Zoom call. It's not complicated like people think it is.
And how large of a data set would you recommend? So you said like 30 people on the phone. Like that seems, when I imagine that, like 30 conversations, it seems a lot. But then imagine if you're working for a company with huge ambitions, like is any data better than no data? Is that the kind of the approach? Just have these phone calls and just like see what comes out? Because I can imagine if you ask two people, you're going to have this person saying this.
It's very hard to see trends. And you also have to be very careful that you're not biased, because I had this, database of 5,000 people, but I could only talk to 30. So how do you choose them? And it's important to try and make it random as possible. Otherwise, you just end up with people who really, really like you, and you get kind of a skewed opinion. I don't think there's a specific number. I mean, 30 is like statistically, validated, but you definitely need more than 5 to see a trend. And it really depends whether you're talking to end consumers, which I think they can differ a lot more in their needs than if you're talking to business customers, where if you're looking into a specific industry, it's very likely that a lot of people will have the same challenge. So maybe you don't need 30, you can talk to 10 and you'll still get those insights. I think it's, it's kind of, you can probably have like an instinct, because you start seeing that the conversations actually repeat themselves. People are saying exactly the same thing. So if you hit that point, I think you probably have enough. Yeah, I don't know. Probably not less than 10. Like I can't see any insights of, under 10 people or customers.
It's really interesting that I've only really heard of people actually doing this from like startups, people actually testing their assumptions. Like I was recently reading The Lean Startup, and it's that exact thing. It's like you have assumptions, but you can be in the meeting, you have assumptions, but have you actually tested the assumptions? Like you're just purely speaking from bias, even if you don't realize. And it really interests me, because I think from my own experience, whenever I've been in like smaller organizations, like this is just not something that they do. They do not ring up existing clients and just say like, what is it about us that you enjoy? Even
when I worked for Microsoft or when I did consulting for Google, I mean, this is my approach. I believe you need to be, customer-centric. I know that you can get so much valuable information from talking to your customers, and I actually do believe in validating my assumptions and, getting things out quick and dirty. It doesn't always have to be in the form of an interview. So you can work for, a big company and you have this advertising campaign that you want to run. Instead of going crazy and sending it out to 1 million people, why not test it out with a really small group of like 100 and see how, it responds? So it doesn't have to be in the form of an interview, but you just want to test out what you're doing. Even, as a product marketer, when I work on building positioning, I don't make a decision and then create a $1 million campaign. I come up with, what I think is a great messaging. I test it internally with my team and my company, and then I test it with existing customers, like 20, 30 of them, to see what they think. And only then I think about taking it out to a broader audience. And it doesn't take that much time. It's not like it's going to delay your campaigns, weeks over weeks. It's just one more step you can take to make sure that you're going in the right direction.
So Does technology like really matter in accelerating a company's growth?
It's a yes and a no, and I'll explain why. I think technology can help accelerate something when you already know that it's good, when you already hit product market fit, then you can bring in technology and it will help you get things, faster, you can scale better. I don't think technology usually solves that problem of finding product market fit. You have to do that yourself. So for a very long time when I worked for Kolu, I used spreadsheets because, we couldn't justify other sophisticated tools. But the minute we hit product market fit, the minute we saw people coming to us instead of us having to, go out and try to convince people that we have a great product, then we started investing and, we're able to grow exponentially.
So you have to make sure it works first before you try and make it more efficient.
I think so. Otherwise, you're spending a lot of time and money on amplifying something that's not working. Why would you do that?
And just for people who perhaps aren't familiar with the term product market fit, so what is product market fit in like your own kind of words?
Yeah, I think it's when you are able to create a product that really solves a problem for someone, that they will actually talk about it to other people, recommend it. I think a lot of people say that you have product market fit when you have word of mouth, when you don't have just to spend tons of money on convincing people to use your product, but they actually recommend it to other people. And if you look at the landscape today, if you see the company Hey, who created this new type of email, this is exactly what they have right now. I don't know if they have product market fit because people haven't used their product yet, but people react really well to their value proposition and what they're promising. So that's a step in the right direction when you have that many people talk about you and, love your product and want to recommend it to other people.
And they're trying to change email. So that's something that people probably think, is that even a problem? Like, do I have a problem with email? And they've completely just revealed that for everyone. It's quite amazing. I have one personal question purely on kind of like definition. So I'm someone who wants to obviously try and, as a marketer, get results. And I personally am not too sure on the difference between like growth marketing, which is the term I hear a lot, and then like growth hacking. Because when I've had experience of being around startups, and it could just be individual startups, but it's very much like growth hacking. Like, how can we just like get results no matter what?
As far as I know, growth marketing, growth hacking, inbound marketing, it's pretty much the same thing. I don't know why people decided to give it, different names, because the end goal is quite similar. I think startups tend to growth hacking because it just sounds, more interesting. And there was a period where it became very popular to use this term. But at the end of the day, it's not so much about tricking people into doing something, but rather building processes that get you to the right audience through the right channel. So just to give you an example, I don't think sending spam emails or spamming people on LinkedIn like, hey, let's send 1 million messages and, 100 people are going to reply. I don't think that's growth hacking. I think that's really bad marketing. But if you realize that people really like your product and you decide to put in a referral button because now they can actually refer other people and you create growth through that, that's growth marketing for me, because you put together a process that continues to work. You don't have to keep spending money on it. So advertising is not growth hacking because you have to keep putting money on it. The minute you stop paying for it, you don't actually have that flywheel effect. So I always try to find ways, either through the product, and there's this whole discipline right now that is called product-led growth, which basically means you use your own product to try and create those flywheel effects. So you can use that, and when you look on the marketing side, you can just do really smart things that give value to people, so they're more, they're more inclined to kind of be part of the conversation, to be part of your community, and to help you grow more organically as opposed to just throwing money at the problem. And there are so many different ways to do that.
Well, you've given me some research to go and do. I'll go check that out. Literally, thank you so much for your time. I've learned so much, and I'm sure anyone listening to this will really benefit as well. So how can people get in contact with you, and when can we expect to buy a book?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, Maya Grossman, and if you want to read more about the book and download the toolkits and also the first chapter of the book, I'm giving it away for free. Just go to mayagrossman.com and you can find everything. The book should come out, pre-orders in August, and officially launch in September.
And what's the full title of the book?
The book is called Invaluable: Master the Skills You Need to Skyrocket Your Career. And it's basically a step-by-step guide for the 10 skills, the 10 soft skills that I honestly believe can, help you grow your career regardless of what you do. And it's what helped me, work for companies like Microsoft and Google, but also get promoted 10 times in 15 years. So if that's where you want to go, that's definitely the book for you.